kart racing, and it is spectacular. It provides an awful lot of fun, and your backside's close to the ground there, Compton.
You certainly are. Quite remarkably, these cars lap the Calder Park touring car circuit in almost the same time that a touring car gets around. For example, yesterday in practice, Dick Johnson lapping in about 58.8 seconds. The man that sits on pole position for this race, John Lawson, in a Zip, has done a 60.64. They're 250cc powered, two-stroke engined karts. They don't have conventional racing car-like suspension, but in virtually all other respects, they're much the same. Slick tyres, big wings, six-speed gearbox, and very, very quick.
And four-wheeled disc brakes. It's amazing what they can pack into such a small component.
And because they are small, it does not mean they're small in performance or they in any way take this any less seriously as a form of motorsport. In fact, anybody who succeeds in open wheel racing in Europe, or for that matter most places around the world, has come from this class of racing.
Most of these karts, the frames certainly originate in England or Europe. Very strong chrome molybdenum steel.
Well, there's in fact two classes of racing for twin-cylinder and single-cylinder engines, should I say. 250cc, as I mentioned before, and the cars, or karts, more specifically, coming out into the warm-up area at the moment before they get underway for their six-lapper.
What about tyres on these things now?
Well, the slick tyres, exactly the same principles as we see on a touring car or on an open wheeler. Softer compound rubber than you would see on a conventional road tyre. A tyre capable of generating more heat and therefore more stickiness, and they have a fairly short sort of a life.
King of the karts here, or at least the man on pole position, John Lawson, is a local, comes from Victoria, 28 years of age. And he's been racing karts for a long time. 1974, I think, was his first season out. His brother Paul Lawson shares the front row of the grid with him, so they've got it in the family.
These things are real twitchy. You notice that time as Paul came out of the right-hander at the bottom of the circuit, they've got a very dull part of the power band, if you like, where the things are just basically building up the speed. When they crack that power band, which is a very specific and short envelope of power, they absolutely fly. They're just grouping up across the back hill now and lining up for a run down the back straight. It's an enormous field, 39 in total. It gives you some idea as to how strong this sport is around the country at the moment. We're not seeing fields of 39 in other forms of motorsport. Very, very strong. And not only do we see big numbers in this form of enduro kart racing, but sprint kart racing is also very popular and very big around the countryside. And that's for single-cylinder 100cc powered karts without a gearbox and run on smaller circuits, but nonetheless very competitive. Unlike
a lot of the touring car drivers, of course, who are full-time racers or manage their own race-associated business, guys that drive karts, it's purely a weekend activity, and they come from all kinds of backgrounds. John Lawson owns and manages his own business, of course, but we've got chartered accountants, hotel owner managers, all sorts of people from all walks of life enjoy this brand of sport.
Well, it's probably the closest thing you would get for a minimum amount of money to feel like a Formula One pilot, because that close to the road, going that quickly, it's an experience of exhilaration that you wouldn't get in a sedan, I can tell you. Peter McKay, you're looking at this for the first time, I think. Your impressions, you saw the practicing yesterday?
Oh, they're great little things, and you were talking about the appeal of the karts, and I guess the fact that they're only about $10,000 to get the most competitive kart in the business. That's short. Oh, and look at it. A message there from Calder Park. Yeah, they're such a cheap way of getting into motorsport, as opposed to $1 million budget for touring cars.
So they're just lining up now. They'll be like a swarm of angry bees as they get away from the line. 6 laps of the journey on the conventional touring car circuit.
It's about 6 minutes, is it? Yeah, it will be. Maybe a little longer under race times, but not much. John and Paul Lawson sharing the front row of the grid. That's John in 59, Paul Lawson, car 24. Paul Zarin in car 90 and Les May, car 20.
Paul Zarin, in fact, tested last year or late last year with Peter Brock's then Mobile Commodore team. Was looking to move into Group A touring car racing and did a very good job as they prepare now for a start.
Car 12 is stalled. That's Peter Woodgate.
And the guy that ripped back from about row 4 on the grid was in kart number 69. He's come from so far down the field, an incredible performance, but both the Lawsons got away very, very slowly. And Peter Woodgate still attempting to get his machine started as they rush down towards the end of the main straight for the first time
Dave
through.
McGill also slow away from the start and badly tailed out.
Charlie Lombardo, the leader, as they come out of the left-hander and across the top of the hill. The kart gets all light and wiggly, but they've got enormous wings on the back of them, which increases the downforce on the back of the thing as they become mobile, and they are flying down the back straight. 160, 170 kilometres an hour, believe it or not, and then very, very hard under brakes into this right-hander.
Charlie Lombardo, that is, car 69.
You can see a lot of dirt and debris on the circuit there from a previous practice session here. And that's likely to cause a few of the guys some drama as they lob on that for the first time.
Hasn't he made the electric start 8th spot on the grid?
Qualified in a 62.52 yesterday, which is about 2 seconds off the pace. Well, he's not off the pace now as he crosses the start-finish line. Number 2 in second position is Gerard Seibert, and in fact now challenging on the inside, makes use of what draft he had. And
He's been out-braked into the corner.
good example of how deep you can go by the leader.
Handling seems to be a bit amiss in number 2.
That's what I was saying before, when these things crack the whip, you have to hold on tight.
Sad day for car number 43, off on the infield. His race has been run.
Is this your caper, Wilco? Can we see?
Oh, the red car's in front of the red car. Well, no, the white car's just slotted into second place.
Oh, you'd be sensational in one of these. 69.
I might have a go at this.
Charlie Lombardo. 24's come from nowhere. He's not cited in the top 10 qualifiers. 5th at the end of lap 1, now challenging in second position. Lombardo's going to have to work pretty hard here. In fact, he's just lost the lead.
Car 24 hits the pack as they go down to the bottom of the main straight again.
Paul Lawson, outside of the front row, qualified in a time of 61.28. One of the famous Lawson brothers that tend to dominate this category down here.
He's 22 years of age, an electrician by trade, Paul Lawson.
Seibert across the top of the hill and back down through the chicane. That thing looks pretty dodgy when it starts to get some pace up, as you said before. And he's about to be attacked by all comers at the moment. Jolly in kart number 28 is really on the attack. And with these things not having any suspension at all, look at the ride they get. It's not the sport if you have a crook back. You can't see behind that fiberglass shroud, but up on the steering column of the kart is where they have the 6-speed gear lever. These engines are based on 2-stroke road racing motorcycle engines.
The number 2 car, Gerard Seibert, seems to race sideways like a crab.
She's got some ugly handling traits at the moment.
It's a real duel.
Jolly on the outside, gets up onto the ripple strip. It's very slippery on the glossy paint. He's found out all about that in a hurry. But John Lawson in 59. The Lawsons starting to come back through the field. They made a dreadful start. Paul Lawson in the foreground. John Lawson behind. 28 is Jolly.
Now, John Lawson, having led the field, dropped back to 6th position, so they've really gathered him in a hurry.
Look at the wheelbase on these things, about 2 feet. Very twitchy handling.
I noticed that theirs, or both their karts, very neatly shrouded in fiberglass, and that obviously adds to the aerodynamic advantage that they've got over some of the other guys whose karts don't look as clean in the airflow department.
Yeah, they claim they have some downforce, but the way they're jumping around on the faster part of the circuit, on the faster corners, suggests that that downforce isn't all that great.
You see the driver's feet working pretty hard, clutch, brake and accelerator, exactly the same as you'd see in an ordinary race car.
Yeah, but your feet look awful lonely out there,
They do, don't they? And vulnerable, I reckon.
Peter Brock's feet, Peter renowned for size 13, they'd poke up a bit and destroy a bit of the aerodynamics of the motor car.
Yeah, they'd slow him 20 mile an hour, those big paddles. John Lawson there on screen, kart 59. That's a Zip Rotax. Rotax is really the popular and quick engine in this class of racing. They're coming around now for 1 lap to go. And the challenge on. Paul Lawson leading, John Lawson behind.
And his blood thicker than water.
It's probably more likely to rev these guys up than to determine any specific team orders. And after that shocking start, they've got away pretty well now. In fact, they've opened up the enormous gap over the third place guy.
Yeah, I don't think car 69, Charlie Lombardo, knew what had struck him when he inherited the lead after the slow start by the Lawsons, but it didn't take long for them to get up and running again. And here they are running first, second, less than a lap to go.
Jolly's a long way back in third at the moment. They use slightly different lines. Oh. John was taking a fairly radical approach through the chicane that time down the back straight. In fact, the battle for third's fairly red hot as well. So 1 corner remaining now before these guys come round to greet the checkered flag. And Paul Lawson with about 3 kart lengths over his brother John, who's making a very rapid run on the outside. There won't be much between them as they get to the checkered flag. And the finish comes up, and indeed it's 24, Paul Lawson, who survives from John. And finishing in third position was Gerard Siebert in kart number 2.
Okay, that's SuperKart racing.